When we bought the place on Meadowridge Lane, all I wanted was a patch of peace. It wasn't much, just a one-story house with a big fenced yard and tall oaks, but after years in the city juggling work, grief, and single parenting, it felt like finally exhaling. My kids, Caleb and Ava, were excited for entirely different reasons: room to roam, build forts, maybe even get a dog. We were still living out of half-open boxes when we met her. Or more accurately, she found us. She stood behind the fence in a leopard print bathrobe, cradling a steaming mug like it was some kind of ancient relic, and started shrieking about how my unattended children were a danger to themselves and the community. Her voice cracked through the morning air so hard it made Caleb spill his juice box and nearly trip over the garden hose. We'd been in the house barely 2 weeks. I hadn't even set up the Wi-Fi yet. And here she was, already threatening to call Child Protective Services like it was part of a welcome packet. What she didn't know was that when that call hit the state database, it landed on my desk. See, I'm Aaron Bell, Senior Investigator for the State Office of Child Welfare Oversight. I'm the guy who audits CPS case reports, trains agents, and investigates claims of systemic abuse or misconduct. Karen picked the wrong family to mess with. Yes, her real name wasn't Karen. It was Colleen Murrow, HOA board member, committee chair of neighborhood aesthetics, and self-appointed warden of the Meadowridge values. But Karen fit like a glove. The first time I saw her, she was craning over the fence like a suspicious giraffe. It was one of those weird half-smiles you give someone when you're not sure if they're going to offer you a pie or poison your garden. I waved. She blinked like I'd just insulted her ancestors and disappeared. That was our introduction. What followed was like watching someone unravel in slow motion. She left a note on our door warning that our garden hose violated the HOA's tripping hazard rules. She flagged our mailbox because it was painted an unapproved shade of slate. She coughed loudly every time the kids played outside, like she was expelling our joy from her lungs. I checked the HOA rulebook. None of her claims held any water. Didn't matter. Karen wasn't there to follow the rules. She was there to weaponize them. One sunny afternoon, I was adjusting the trellis while Caleb chased butterflies barefoot across the grass. Ava followed behind him with a net made from an old coat hanger and cheesecloth. It was sweet. Normal. That's when Karen stomped down her driveway, phone already up like she was filming a documentary about neglect. She was yelling, actually yelling, that she was reporting me for child endangerment and lack of supervision. I laughed. At first. But when I heard her say, strong odor of neglect, my smile dropped. She wasn't bluffing. She was making a real call. I know the language. I've written the training modules. Her phrasing was deliberate, calculated, dangerous. Later that day, while I was out buying lunchbox snacks, a CPS caseworker came to our house unannounced and asked my kids questions alone. Ava mentioned it while we were eating pancakes the next morning. She said a woman came to the door, asked if I ever yelled, and Ava answered only when I burned toast. Caleb proudly showed off a sticker shaped like a badge. That sticker made my blood run cold. I knew what that meant. A formal welfare visit had been initiated. Without my knowledge. Without my consent. Without cause. I drove straight to the CPS regional office, not as Aaron the dad, but as Aaron Bell, federal oversight officer with full clearance. I didn't yell. I didn't flash a badge. I requested the intake report on my own address, citing audit transparency statutes. The file was thin, which made it worse. Vague language. Accusations like excessive yard waste and unsecured tools accessible to minors. No harm. No incident. Just enough smoke to make someone go looking for fire. That's the trick with people like Karen. They don't need to prove anything. They just have to plant enough suspicion to make life miserable. When I returned home that night, Karen was back at the fence. She smiled. Not a kind smile. A smile that said, I can do this all day. I waved. My smile said, so can I. That night, Ava asked if we were in trouble. I said no. I told her everything was fine, and I meant it out loud. But inside, I knew better. We weren't just up against a nosy neighbor. We were at war with someone who knew how to abuse a system. And I knew exactly how to stop her. The next day, I installed 2 discrete outdoor cameras with full audio coverage, aimed at the parts of the yard Karen liked to monitor. I adjusted our home security settings and added motion zones along the fence. If she was going to lie, I was going to have the truth. 2 days later, animal control showed up. Said someone filed a report about a large aggressive dog roaming the neighborhood. I asked, what dog? We didn't have one. Caleb wanted one badly. I had promised we'd get one after we reinforced the fence. The officers apologized and left embarrassed. But it wasn't about dogs. It was about pushing buttons. Karen was testing which authorities would stick. The next visitor was Miss Teresa Jolene, our quiet neighbor from 2 houses down. She brought over a casserole and a nervous smile. She told me she'd overheard Karen on a call bragging about her connections in social services, saying she could make things real difficult for us if we didn't fall in line. Teresa said it didn't sit right with her. I thanked her, took the casserole, and made a note. I sat the kids down and explained that if anyone ever asked questions about our home again, they should tell the truth and then immediately call me. Ava asked if Karen wanted to get rid of us. I told her, some people get scared when others don't obey their imaginary rules. Caleb said he hoped Karen stepped in gum. I said I'd settle for wet cement. In the following days, I built a file detailed, organized, cross-referenced. Security footage, HOA bylaws, photos of Karen's own violations, trash cans left out past sundown, more than 2 pieces of lawn decor, she had 6 gnomes and a flamingo, and inconsistent fence maintenance. I didn't plan to use it yet, but it was ready. I contacted a trusted colleague in digital forensics. I asked him to help me track metadata from the complaint portal. If I could tie the anonymous reports to Karen's IP address, we'd have proof. He agreed. Then the police showed up. Karen had called in a noise complaint claiming she heard violent yelling from my house. The responding officer looked tired and skeptical. I invited him in. He saw Ava reading a book and Caleb coloring a rocket ship. 5 minutes later, he left. He gave Karen's house a long look before driving off. That night, I got a message from my contact. He'd matched timestamps from the CPS report submissions to activity from Karen's home router. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. The next morning, I filed an official complaint with the HOA's legal review board. I included every piece of evidence, digital and physical. I cited bylaws. I added sworn neighbor testimonies. I CC'd their legal counsel. Karen escalated. She planted a motion sensor on our side of the fence. I caught it on camera. I retrieved the device and placed it on her doorstep. She got the message. I called the CPS regional director. Told him everything. He said, "You're not the first." Turns out Karen had made similar allegations 2 years prior against another single parent. The woman moved out after being cleared. Karen had won that time. Not this time. The agency opened a formal review. That same week, the HOA board scheduled a special meeting. I attended with a calm voice and a thick folder. I presented my case. I played the footage. I read the report. Then the neighbors spoke, one after another. Stories flowed like water behind a broken dam. Karen sat silently. When the board adjourned, they promised a decision within 48 hours. 2 days later, the letter arrived. Karen Murrow was formally removed from the HOA board for abuse of power, harassment, and community disruption. An additional clause was added to the HOA bylaws limiting anonymous complaints to emergencies subject to immediate audit. It was over. That weekend, the neighborhood held a block party, lemonade, games, movies on a garage projector. Ava and Caleb darted through glow sticks and marshmallows, shouting with joy. I stood under the oak tree watching, breathing. At some point, I noticed Karen standing at her window watching. No one waved. She didn't come outside. A few days later, a for sale sign appeared in her yard. On my desk, tucked away in a manila folder, sits a handwritten note. I went too far. I'm sorry. There's no signature. But I know who wrote it. And that's enough. Because peace isn't something you're given. It's something you defend. Every day. Every swing of a hammock. Every sticker batch. Every silly joke between siblings under a treehouse. That backyard? That's where we rebuilt our lives. That's where the truth bloomed. And no one, not even a leopard print tyrant, could take that away.